Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, I am Vijay and I make videos around AI and LLMs. So if this is something that interests you, then please do consider subscribing to my channel. With that, let's dive into today's video. So this is going to be the beginning of a new playlist called Vibe Coding. Uh, this is a sort of a buzzword in recent times. I'll we'll learn what vibe coding is, but this video in particular is more of an introduction to this playlist. I'll share my thoughts around how LLMs have changed, how we should go about it, and what vibe coding is, what this playlist is, and so on. So these are the things that will be covered in this video. First, let's just speak about LLMs in general, right, and how things have changed in the recent times. So LLMs have pretty much lowered the barrier of entry for almost any domain that you can think of, right? You could be, let's say, a lawyer, right? LLMs can read through pages of clauses or contracts and help you find the right clause, right? You could be a marketer, and LLMs can give you ad copies, run A/B tests on them, and give you the perfect strategy. Maybe you could be a writer, right? LLMs can give you ideas, or actually draft an entire well structured um, write up in minutes for you. Or you could be, let's say, a developer, right, like a software developer. You could build an entire backend with these LLMs in a matter of days or weeks. And you can keep adding to this list, right? And like I said, the barrier of entry has become less. So what I mean by that is, let's say we are speaking of skill, right? Let's say writing, right? We're speaking of this particular skill. Let's say from 0 to 10, you are at 2. You are not a professional, maybe you're just entering the field. You know some concepts, but you can't coherently write sentences, no well structured sentences that people would want to read. So let's say your skill is at 2, right? But now with LLMs, and over the time it has become really smart and strong. They have reduced the barrier of all the professionals, and anybody using LLMs can suddenly go from a 2 to maybe a 6 or maybe even a 7, right? So simply by using an LLM, your output's quality can go from a 0, or somewhere from here straight up to this level, right? Simply by using LLMs, right? So if you are someone who is using an LLM, you're simply better than so many other people in terms of producing output. Simply because as a beginner, uh, like I said, the quality of output is not so good, but LLMs simply overcomes so much of them, right? So you are suddenly here. But now there are problems to this, right? First is, you are not doing the job. LLMs are the one that is doing the job, right? They are literally replacing your output, right? So over the time, even if you are literally a 2, your quality is going to reduce because you're so much dependent on LLMs, right? But let's say that's fine, right? If you have competition, let's say you want to be ahead of the crowd and so on. But if everybody is using LLMs, everybody can give the same prompt, same input, get the same output. The quality is getting saturated. The quality of the output from LLMs is getting saturated, because the quality is literally the same. There's also so much competition now, right? Everybody can use LLMs and become a 6 or a 7. Now how do you stand out here, right? And like they say, AI doesn't replace someone. A person who is using AI does, right? So this is what you want to focus on, right? You want to use LLMs to get of course to get better output, but also to become better on your own, right? To improve your inherent outputs or inherent thought process, skill set, and so on. So if I were a 2, like let's say I will draw the same thing here from 0 to 10, right? I'm a 2 here, right? Now I'm not working alone, but I'm using an AI to work with me. So over time, my quality will improve, right? I'll probably, with time, I'll go to 3, I'll go to 4. And because I'm also using an LLM, which is already maybe at a 6 or 7, right? My skill plus the AI skill will give me somewhere here, right? An 8 or a 9. You get where I'm going, right? Maybe at the start you are probably slow among the when compared to others, right? But over time you get better at your own skill set, right? And when you combine yourself um, with that of an LLM, your output is only going to get better, right? You are going to get better over time, and when you add the LLM's output to this, you see how it's you're just becoming better and better, right? So this should be the approach going forward, at least or at least that's what I would want. I would want to do. Now, is using an LLM useful for everyone? Probably not. Let's say we take a graph like this, right? Um, you have a bunch of beginners here, and you have a bunch of experts here, right? And you have some super experts here, like the literally the top 5% people, right? You always speak about people in this being irreplaceable, right? Now maybe an LLM's output is here, right? We said somewhere around 6 or 7. For someone in this range, maybe he's like a super senior developer, right? With 10 15 years of experience, who has seen multiple waves of tech scene changing, has worked with bunch of softwares, tools, and so on. For him, just speaking in terms of skill set alone, um, he probably doesn't need an LLM, right? He's just better, purely speaking of us from a skill set point of view. So it's for the majority of the people in the middle category, like people like me, people like you, may probably, uh, who has to who can make the most use of LLMs to increase oneself. Yeah, so this is what I was this is mainly what I was trying to convey. And speaking of experts too, right? There are aspects where you can use LLMs to simply become more efficient, right? So purely speaking of skills, maybe the person is greater than or equal to an LLM, right? Um, and when I say skills, right, let's say for an example, like a developer, maybe he is good at coding, reviewing stuff, building the actual, like a PRD. And when I say PRD, it's like the structure of what software they're trying to build and so on. Maybe the person is more or less the same as that of an LLM. But when you speak of speed to produce an output, right? Maybe you are speaking of accuracy of this person, right? Um, yeah, you're speaking of accuracy in terms of producing the output at the same speed. I would be surprised if there's a person. But here, clearly, LLM wins the game, right? LLM is clearly better at all of this, right? It not only has the right skills, but can also provide output at a speed, can have great accuracy, and most importantly, they can scale, right? A person's time is limited, right? 24 hours, maybe 6 hours a day, 8, 10, 12 hours, whatever. LLMs and such machines or agents, um, the scale for them is massive, right? And that's why even if you are like super expert at certain field, you should still find ways to use an LLM to optimize yourself, right? And I think it all boils down to how smart you want to be around things, right? Where you want to build or like improve yourself, and where you're okay to let an LLM do your work, right? For example, let's take me, right? Now I make YouTube videos. right? So let's say what are the things that's involved here. Maybe initially I'll have to do some research, right? I have to research specific topics, maybe learn around it, and then break it down so that I can explain it easily for these videos. Maybe second, I'll have to do a bit of coding, uh, right? Test them, evaluate them. You might have seen some of my previous videos where I've been building RAG workflows. I then tie it to something like Langsmith to trace the outputs. So all of this goes into this aspect. And then I have to then post. So this is maybe number two, this was one. Maybe this third aspect where I have to actually put it on YouTube. So YouTube requires the things like thumbnails, right? um, Oops, yeah. So I have to make thumbnails so it's maybe attractive for an user to create the first impression and actually come and watch my video. Maybe there's a fourth aspect where I have to optimize, do some SEO, or what's it called, SEO, right? Yeah. SEO optimizations for my titles, or uh, titles, or descriptions and so on, so that way maybe my video ranks up the order for people to view when certain topics are searched, right? So maybe I can broadly classify my YouTube video process into these, right? Now if you think about it, do I need AI? Of course I can use AI to optimize all of these workflows. um, but should I actually sit and work with an LLM or an AI in each of them? Not really, right? For research, I'll sit with an AI, right? I want to learn on my own, but also make use of AI to quickly pull some relevant documents from the web. Help me break down complex concepts so I understand it initially, so I can use AI to make the research work easier for me. Coding, I'll again probably use an AI to help me write pieces of code, right? If again, like if you had followed the recent RAG series, certain sections of the code are literally the same, right? There's minute changes here or there. So I would use something like Cloud Code to simply rewrite it for me, right? I don't have to write the same thing again and again, finding those minute changes. I'll tell the code what to do, and I'll let the AI do it. I'll review the pieces of code where I actually want to learn. Maybe there are certain functions or libraries that I'm not aware of. There I'll use the AI to improve myself. But otherwise, I can hand over some of the pieces of coding to the AI, right? So again, these are two things where I'll work hand in hand with an AI. Coming to thumbnails, sure, I might want to work with an AI to improve my skill set in designing. I can improve my skill set in having better taste, or improve my creative side and so on, right? But it is time consuming. It is not something that I'm focused on doing right now, right? I can simply let an AI, something like a Gemini Nano Banana, to generate the thumbnails for me. So here I can totally rely on an AI, right? Maybe sometime in future, if I want to develop my design skills, I'll come back and I'll work with AI to understand the principles, give it an input, modify it, and so on, and also improve my own side of things. But at the moment, I can just rely on AI. SEO titles and description. Again, simply I can leave it to the AI, and this is literally what I do. Thumbnails, I still make it on my own. I think it's super simple for time being. I haven't yet handed it over to an AI, but I'm just saying, right? But titles and descriptions, I totally leave it to the AI. I just give it context of what the video I'm making, and it'll give me some description, and I simply paste it on my YouTube videos. I barely read them, right? Because what I'm mainly focused on is these, right? Explaining the concepts explaining the code and sharing it with you all. That's my main focus. So here I want to improve myself by using an AI, so I can produce more and more videos quickly, improve no, at a greater speed, accuracy, and so on. But these are two things where I'm not really focused on improving my skill set. I'm okay with whatever the output is, right? This is what goes here, right? Maybe I'm like a 2, right? Maybe I'm like a 2 or a 3 in designing skills. I don't mind if the output of LLM is 6 or 7, right? For me, 2 to 6 is already a big jump, right? So I'm going to let AI do all of this, right? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, always use AI, but use it smartly. Know which aspects of your workflows or your daily routine can be sort of optimized with using some AI tool. Uh, but always make sure you're upskilling yourself, right? I don't know if I said here, did I? Yeah. So AI is not going to replace you. A person who is going to use AI is going to replace you. So become this person, right? I think that's what I'm going to say. So yeah, this is my thoughts on LLMs and the landscape. Now where we'll go next is pipe coding, right? What's pipe coding? So this is when I think this is it's been a buzzword in recent times, right? You would mostly associate this with something like software development, especially. Uh, this is something that's just mostly used in the tech world, right? So this is when you build apps or softwares, right? Purely through wait, let's go here. Purely through prompting, right? Purely through prompting. You're not really having a well defined plan or structure for LLMs to give you the output, but you simply prompting, you see an output, you prompt again to change things. Let's say you're building a single page website for you, right? You have like a title, some sections, maybe a photo and whatever, right? You have like a single page uh, website for you, right? So you could prompt saying, hey, build a one page portfolio website for me, and use vibrant colors, maybe dark blue and I don't know, white. Use bold text, and keep it modern, right? This is what you prompt. So it's going to give you an output on its own. So LLMs do their own thinking, maybe define the plan and come up with this output, right? And no, you can then also share some files, reference photos, to say, hey, pick up this element from here and build on this. So it's going to go back, use whatever the JavaScript, CSS, HTML, whatever, and rebuild it for you. So that's the main idea of vibe coding. You just go with the vibes, right? You code, and purely by using prompts. And so this is where all the AI agents and the smart things come into picture, right? Now, how is this different from generally using in LLMs? So like LLMs, when you say they so yeah, I mean, vibe coding uses AI agents. They're just powerful version of LLMs themselves, right? They use multiple LLMs, have a larger context. So your it has context of your entire code base, right? You have multiple files here. It has context of all of the scripts and files. It knows how each of them is linked with one another, right? So when you say, hey, change this section for me, it knows which section to change. It knows how any of this is going to affect the other section, so it goes there and modifies it on its own. It can come up with a plan from 0 to 10 on its own. You don't have to rely on a lot of your own thought process or your own skills here. You could simply prompt English or like the natural language to produce the certain outputs, right? And when you make iterations over this, it has context of what the previous version looked like. It has context of whatever you have told it, right? And it will then make like an optimized version of it. So that's what vibe coding is, right? Now, again, how should you use it? At least in my opinion, you should go back and simply follow the same principle, right? You could give it the prompt, let it build on its own, but that's where comes these issues, right? You could build a one-page website, but if you were to build multiple pages, have a backend, there's this security layer that you might miss simply because you don't know, and you're just prompting. LLMs might miss out on them, right? And you're not optimizing it simply because you're not following the best engineering practices and so on. So you shouldn't blindly be vibe coding, right? It's also difficult to scale beyond a point, to be honest, I guess. Of course, there are exceptions. You will see from time to time people building things on their own with barely having any technical knowledge. Um, but also, right, you should, like I said, you should know how to use them smartly. AI plus vibe coding, let's say here, right? Like not AI plus vibe coding, like as a person plus vibe coding. So yeah, you should basically know what you're prompting, instead of letting it purely work on its own. Maybe come up with a basic plan, right? uh, and then let LLMs ask you questions, know, grasp what it is, what you're thinking, and build with that, right? Vibe coding is just essentially um, powerful way of coding when compared to something like just using LLMs to write pieces of code. So now, why am I starting the series? Why am I making this vibe coding uh, playlist, right? Now, to be honest, I'm a data analyst. I barely know anything about software engineering, right? Um, but what I've realized is the best way to build intuition is by simply building things, right? And what I mean by that is, let's go back to this website example, right? And this website example. Uh, Now, let's say I'm going to build a bigger website, like a bigger platform, and I need multiple pages, right? So multiple pages are built. Now, these have to be connected to a backend, and the backend has to be connected through some APIs, I believe, right? APIs has to be there. There is a user here, so maybe some sort of authentication in the beginning, right? You have your database here, so your backend has to be built efficiently, right? And you might want to host it in a cloud environment and so on, right? I know I'm just throwing terminologies here, but what I'm essentially trying to say is, going through this process of vibe coding a platform like this means you essentially learn how to design things, learn, uh, you know um, structure these different uh, tools or ideas that might be required here, right? I can adapt this to maybe like an LLM engineer, like an LLM engineered app, right? I might host like a RAG app on a cloud app, like, AWS, for example. I'll then have to build some APIs, fast API and so on, to hit my backend, save the input. I'll probably use like a vector database. I can cache some inputs and quickly pick the relevant answers if it's already available and so on. So you can see how, by building like a website app where I have no knowledge of JavaScript, no knowledge of software engineering and so on, but by simply putting myself through this process of building this entire app, I'll be introduced to so many terminologies, so many ideas, tools, and technologies which can help me build that context, right? So if you see something that I actually like believing in is, if this is your brain, right? The first layer you sort of build through actually building something, getting mistakes, doing your manual work, and so on, right? But there's also this sort of secondary and tertiary layer of memory. This is your primary. Maybe there's this secondary and tertiary layer, which you need not necessarily be very good at, right? You want to be good at some primary skill or primary stuff, but the others you can you simply want to build that context. You simply want to have certain ideas running behind your head. So when you are actually going to build something useful, these things pop up here, right? You can connect those dots, right? You first, maybe you have just knowledge of these two, right? But now, because you have like vague understanding of these three, you can connect those dots, and that will help you in the longer run, right? And that's something I believe personally. So I think that's like the main idea of this playlist, right? What I'll do is every week I'll try and build an app purely from vibe coding. No sort of literal prompting. um, Maybe somewhere down the line I'll become decent enough to code some stuff on my own, but to begin with I'll only prompt. I'll show you what I've built, and what it does. These are maybe some genuine use cases for me personally, which can be useful for you or someone watching. If you want to use it, you can go ahead, use it. But purely from the playlist point of view, I think the main idea is to push yourself through this process of building new things. And I'll share the things that have worked for me and why I did certain things certain way, or how I built, so on. I'll of course share my GitHub repo to go over them. And yeah, so yeah, I'll be using this tool called Cloud Code. If you haven't heard it, I'm not sure what you're doing if you're living under the rock. Just kidding, but yeah, Cloud Code is probably the leader now, right? In terms of all this agentic coding and no vibe coding and so on. There are of course the other apps like Emergent. I think you also have Replit. This playlist is sort of tool agnostic. You can use any tool that you want to. I'm using this. Right. I think the idea is not tool specific, but more about building that intuition, building that secondary layer of knowledge, and just pushing yourself to build things. So hopefully you end up using it somewhere else, I guess. I think, yeah, that's pretty much for this video. So if you're a data analyst, a developer, or just someone technical who's curious about what vibe coding is, I think this is going to be an interesting series. This was an introduction, right? The next video would be the real one. I have actually vibe coded an app. I'm actually very interested to show it to you. It's sort of a clone of this Whisper Flow, like a voice to text app that I've built. Can't wait to show it to you, honestly, but I'll save it for the next video, right? I hope this video was useful. I know it's just me you know sharing my thoughts, so may or may not be that useful, but next video onwards, trust me, it's going to be really useful. um, and yeah, let's see in the next video then.